We're all sinners. That's what confession is for. Prime was written and directed by Thapislo Christopher in his feature film debut, stars Richard Gao as Marius and Namsotwala as Thembi. If I mispronounce either of those names, I do apologize. They are a couple living in Cape Town, South Africa, and they've been together for a few years. And like any couple that has been together for any length of time, there's going to be happy times, there's going to be sad times, and boy, the sad times are hitting, because Marius, in addition to having a very loving girlfriend, Thembi, somebody that he really does love dearly, and you can tell because there are certain moments where you can see the love just shine through. He's also dealing with the stress of a work project that he has put his blood, sweat, and tears into, and he has a gentleman with him, Stefan, that has been working with him on this and trying to work with the company to really make this project work. What is this project? Well, we just find out it's pretty much a project, but it's something that he's passionate about. Unfortunately, the sad times are over here in the form of Marius's dad, who is just not doing all that well. Let's just say there's a lot of tragedy in Marius's life. We find out as the film goes on. And it turns out his dad was also very bigoted. Very, very bigoted, apparently. Even though when certain things get revealed, you kind of have to understand, you know, it's like, what the fuck? Why would he be like that? But nevertheless, he's coming to grips with this stuff and trying to deal with it. And Thembi is there for him, has been there for him, you know, through a lot of stuff. She has her own sadness in her past. And then after the dad does, you know, pass away, that, you know, it's pretty obvious that's going to set off a chain of events. And oh boy, does it ever. And Marius has one of two paths. He can do his best to come to grips with his past, not let it define his future, grow his life with Thembi, have this work project go off great, or you go down the other path and let the trauma absolutely warp his goddamn mind to the point that he doesn't know which way is up, which way is down. If it's up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. And yeah, psychological horror mixed with, you know, a little bit of body horror and a little bit of stuff. It's a few things, Human Centipede together, and this film is available on Netflix. I had not heard of this film before it just suddenly got dropped, and it's actually been in my queue pretty much since, you know, I watched it for a little bit. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. It's been in my watch list. That's really just what I'll say right there. And I was interested because it's not often I see a movie just dropped onto a streaming service that looks like it has some effort put behind it, where I'm like, okay, sure, why the hell not? And I've seen some great independent horror movies, some great independent dramas, so why not give this a shot? I wasn't actually sure what South African town it was set in, though, given the fact that it's basically on the goddamn water. Cape Town probably should have been the only one that I thought of, since I don't know that many, you know, South African cities. But nevertheless, basically, we just see Richard Gow's Marius and Namsotwala's Thembi basically trying to keep their relationship together. Because you can tell they do love each other, but life has taken them in different directions because certain things are not being handled well. And there's really only blame that you can throw at one particular person. And there are other people in this movie as well. There's Jasmine Hazy, who plays Eva. She's somebody that comes in a little bit later. And then you have Sharon Spiegel Wagner as Ruth. I farted. If anybody gets that MST3K reference, I love you guys. And Gerard Rudolph as Peter. No, nevertheless. Basically, Marius keeps having flashbacks. Thembi is also trying to work hard to, you know, find some better work and everything. She's trying to do good, trying to be a good girlfriend. While Marius basically just has his life spiral completely out of control. I will say some positives. I think the acting by, you know, the cast is good as it can get. Richard Gow and Namsotwala do a pretty good job with a pretty good general idea, but not a ton of meat behind it. Yes, dealing with trauma obviously would be tough, and there are some neat little scenes in this. I also think the movie didn't know quite what it wanted to be, and low budget or not, there were points where the camera work was testing my patience because it was very, very shaky. And not shaky for dramatic effect, it was shaky where like, oh boy, oh shit. Now again, this isn't by any means the worst film that I've seen this year, but unfortunately outside of the a few decent scenes with the two lead actors, there isn't a lot here. There really isn't. I mean, it has some stuff that you could sink your teeth into for a little bit, but it doesn't allow any of it to set in, and it also then gets a little bit ridiculous later on, where yes, you can see where they were going, but I don't know, this didn't click. This did not click for me. It is on Netflix if you want to check it out, and who knows, maybe you guys will feel differently. Again, some positives. Richard and Namza did pretty good, as I'd like to see what else they can do, and the Besso Christopher, again, if I'm mispronouncing that, I do apologize, seemed to have a vision. I don't know what exactly the plan was, because it just got, it got messy. It got pretty goddamn messy. And also, as far as a concept, the idea was there. It just also seemed like it was stretched out and then rushed in other parts. So, nevertheless, check it out on Netflix if you want. I am going to get into spoilers. The spoilers will really not take very long. Just want to say that right here. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, the dad was very bigoted. The dad was very bigoted as something is driven home. There's even a point where Themby basically says, hey, he's dying. Why don't we get his blessing for our relationship? And Marius just can't do that. He can't do that. He's got this project he's working on. He has an engagement ring. Should have proposed to her. I'm just going to say, you got somebody who is loving and looks like Namza Thawala. You will want to make sure that you land her. Just saying, beautiful woman. You would want to make sure that you treat her right. You want to make sure you treat anybody right, especially if you want to be with them. Regardless of how other people perceive them, if you think they're beautiful and you think they're great for you, you need to actually you need to actually make sure you stick the landing and treat them right for the rest of your respective lives. So he kind of starts to lose it after his dad dies, because his mother also ended her life when he was young. We find out why later. He also watches some cam videos with a woman who's played by Jasmine Hazy, who I do have to say has a good look. She has a good look as far as playing, the seductress type, because it's supposed to be like the original sin, this beast that can sink its teeth into you if you allow your trauma and you go down the wrong goddamn path. And again, decent idea, not the best execution. He keeps hearing his mom's voice because the trauma is haunting him. He wants to fix up his hometown because people really don't know what it's like to be a fisherman, and his mom had an old shop. The dynamic between Richard and Namza actually was pretty good. I do want to say that. That is, again, one positive. But we get flashbacks. We eventually find out that he can't make peace with his dad. He couldn't even go to the funeral. He couldn't do this. There's a possible inheritance that he didn't want to take because he's just traumatized. And look, again, losing a parent, regardless of whether you had the best or worst relationship with them, can still divide you, because that is your flesh and blood at the end of the day. He visits a grave. We get more weird shit. He has a confession in a church. He keeps having points where this person reaches nails on, gets long nails on his arm and on his shoulders. Earlier, he stopped a young lady from getting her purse snatched on the beach. They seemingly were the only people there. How could you not avoid each other? Nevertheless, I don't know that much about South African crime. So yeah, he says his mother ended his life. He wants to absolve her. The priest even says, that's between her and the Almighty. You need to do what's best for you. Take care of yourself. Push forward. And the dad left him in a lurch and ended up getting with a young lady that was young enough to be his daughter, according to the mother, and opened the door. We just get a brief flash, and it is a young African-American lady. And the self-loathing bigot or whatever that felt that he could just treat anybody that was a different race than him, like he was better. I guess that's the theme they were going for. So they come to a scene where basically he's been in his own head for a goddamn while. The guy that presented the project turned out to actually be African-American, and basically he, too many pronouns, pal, sorry Vince McMahon, he basically ends up telling his coworker, well, no, that's it, I quit. Oh, well, you stuck up for me, you did this and this, but this guy happens to be black, and oh, are you really doing it because of that, or just because he's black? What are you doing? Your girlfriend's terrified of you, all this stuff's going on. Surrounded by these images of Eva, and basically Themby ends up dumping all the stuff out on his lap, basically saying, hey, this is, this is all this stuff I put up with, and all this, I love you, and this, and I lost my, she was an orphan. She never knew her dad. It's really terrible. Really, really terrible. But she ends up basically deciding to leave him. Because he's ending up just like his dad, even though he didn't have to. And he meets Eva for drinks. She has suggested that earlier. It turns out she's actually this original sin demon that sinks her claws into him, so to speak. And then he ends up having a psychotic dream, or maybe not a dream, where he attacks Themby, and then he gets devoured by this demon and ends up walking into the ocean like his mother did, because his mother drugged herself. And that's never the answer, just want to say that. But the mother basically was driven to that because the dad was a goddamn creep. There were, again, neat little pieces in this that could have worked, but I just feel that it didn't click. It gets an F, but it does not get a 1 out of 10. It maybe gets, I don't know, 5 out of 10, something like that. Maybe a 4 out of 10. It's, there again, decent acting. It's okay at times, but that's all I really have to say right there. So I don't wish bad for any of the people. I just didn't really care for this. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.